everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Proud Scale Worker. Today, we have the opportunity to talk with Felipe. Felipe, thank you so much for being on the show. Take a second, tell everybody where you're working at now, what industry, what you're doing, kind of what the day-to-day looks like for you.
So I'm working for a car manufacturer here in Kearney, Nebraska. It's a Eaton Corporation. Basically, we make the inside components, the valves that go inside the engines of your car. For all different kinds of vendors, Polaris, Ford, Hummer, just all different kinds of customers.
Very cool.
The gears for the gearboxes that go into the differentials for some of these vehicles also.
So day-to-day for you, are you on the maintenance team? Are you on the production team? And what are you doing there?
Well, I'm in the maintenance team. Basically, we have 3 shifts here. On first shift, it's about 9 guys, I think, and one lead, or not one lead, but one supervisor, one lead is included in all that. Basically, they have the lines parallel to each other. They have 4 rows of them. So I have lines 3 north and 3 south, which is on each line, you have about 16 machines. So about 32 machines altogether.
How's that work for you guys on overlap? If you got a lot going down and lines 1 and 2 don't, do they move over, or is it kind of every man for themselves?
So basically, if they need help or we're shorthanded on one line, anybody that's available on any other line can go help. And a lot of times I'll get crossed over all the way to the other side of our low bay area where we're at. And I'll get crossed all the way over the other side and go help out over there for an hour or 2 and then come back to my line.
It's great. That's the value of a small team. You said 9 man, maybe 10 with a supervisor. I mean, those small, close-knit teams are valuable.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of camaraderie building going on.
So Felipe, do me a favor and tell me a little bit how you got into the trades. How'd you get into the maintenance industry, industrial maintenance? I mean, what's your backstory? What's your history?
So basically, since I was really small, I've had a talent for working with machines. The first machine I ever fixed was my dad's Impala when I was like 8 years old. I had just had a natural knack for putting stuff together. We're taking stuff apart and seeing how it went back together. A lot of times I tell people if I'm training somebody that when I go to a machine, I kind of try not to think and just let the inner whatever inside of me come out. And it usually works out, but I'll figure it out. Like the machine talks to you. Part of my background, okay, so I knew I had a talent when I was young. Growing up, I went into the military, went to the Navy to be an HT, so basically a welder. So I learned how to read blueprints and look at plans and weld stuff together and fabricate them. When I got out, I went into working with gas turbine engines, repairing the bucket blades and vanes and combustion canisters on those. And then after that, I got into project management for commercial construction, mainly because I wanted to learn all of the different divisions for commercial construction, like the electrical, the engineering, civil engineering, everything that went into it. Got really good at that. But I was in an office all day, and that didn't really fit me. I had to move around, had to get my hands dirty. So I went back into maintenance and been in it ever since. I would have to say 12 years, just strictly maintenance.
So 12 years strictly maintenance, kind of transitioned from a young boy into the military, and then kind of took a little stint off there with that construction supervisor, construction superintendent side.
Yeah. Basically project manager for commercial construction. Had a lot of international clients, Office Depot, Fossil, Tag Heuer, a lot of upper, kind of more expensive brands.
That's awesome. So through that, I mean, 15, 20 years of experience there, 12 years just in industrial, and then you had the Navy experience. By the way, thank you so much for your service. I served in the Marine Corps. I know that's valuable experience for you. I know it kind of shaped who you are and who you become as a man. So thank you so much for your time in service there.
You as well. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. What was your biggest challenge in your industrial career, like your maintenance career? What's been the biggest challenge for you?
Not being put where I am the most useful. I'm not a dumb person. And so don't put me in a place where my talents or being able to think or being able to figure something out, I'm not going to be able to do. If you have me just doing just do this one thing all day long, I'll never survive there because I need stimulation. I need something complicated. I need something small with tiny pieces that move together to feel comfortable. And the challenge has been, and this is where SkillWorks has really helped me out. They're putting me in places that I'm useful and I'm stimulated. Like I can think certain things through and become successful, like just doing my thing.
Yeah, we hear that a lot on the maintenance floor is that one of the biggest struggles that maintenance teams have is burnout from doing the same monotonous tasks over and over and over again. Yeah. It's not the maintenance side that bothers them. And we'll get into this a little bit more, but it's that preventative, it's some of that PM tasks where they're just like, I'm doing the same 15 actions every 2 days. Why am I doing these things? Like those types of things are what burn people out. It's not the break fix stuff. Typically people enjoy that part. It's the stuff where you don't get to think outside the box, where you don't get to create a solution. So definitely you're not the only one in the industry who's challenged by being probably more mechanically inclined and more available and more able to help, and sometimes getting stuck in the wrong position. So
Yeah.
definitely, I think, as you hit the nail on the head a little bit, sometimes you have to then tell people that you want to be utilized in a different way. You have to be open about that and request, hey, I'd like to do something different. You can't just leave me here. I'm going to get bored. You need to move me somewhere.
Yeah.
So, Felipe, today I want to talk to you a little bit about the difference between preventative and predictive maintenance. And the reason for that is we've been hearing a lot about plants trying to get to this preventative maintenance plan. They're trying to establish and develop preventative maintenance plans so that they're not as reactive. But one of the things we're hearing on the technician side is, well, what's the real difference between preventative and predictive? So what's your understanding of the difference between those two?
Okay, so I worked for a company back in Texas. I was the maintenance supervisor there, and they didn't have a PM schedule, a preventative maintenance plan. So I ended up having to come up with all the preventative maintenance, and you set these things up in periodicity, either weekly or monthly or semi-annually or annually. And it's things that will wear out with time, like your bearings, your sliding surfaces, your closing surfaces, stuff like that. That you want to put onto a preventative maintenance. You know that within a certain time, a certain thing's going to wear out, just from experience with the thing or with the machine that you're operating. So you'll put those things on a periodicity. That's our PM schedule. That's our preventative maintenance. Our predictive maintenance, there was another plant I was at where this gentleman he came out of NASA. He's an engineer out of NASA. He wanted to implement an AI that generated a heat map of components that are consumable and not so much a piece of equipment, like let's say a grinding wheel. Now, if that grinding wheel has milled so many parts after so long, your predictive maintenance is going to say, hey, it's about time for you to replace that grinding wheel, instead of like a preventive maintenance where you just replace it every month, no matter what, because you might not run all those parts in a certain month. And the other months you might run more parts. And that's where your predictive maintenance comes in, and it says, hey, you ran so many parts on this wheel, it's time to change it out. Not so much in a periodicity where it's just like, okay, next week we're getting another wheel, next week we get another wheel, next week we get another wheel. That'll end up costing you more money in the long run.
Uh-huh.
Whereas you have a AI system that predicts it, it's telling you it's coming up, a heat map that it generates, it starts to get a little redder and redder and redder and redder in a certain area, and then all of a sudden it just turns black and it says, hey, do this now.
So this is an interesting situation. And as we talk more and more about this on the floor and at higher levels, wherever we're going to discuss, it's important to separate those two things. One being preventative maintenance. And preventative maintenance is your bearings, your gaskets, those things, and typically are all recommended by an OEM or original equipment manufacturer. They tell you, hey, we know this is going to be an issue every X number of days. Now, at your previous plan you talked about, they didn't have one in place. Usually you can go out and find the guidelines for a preventative maintenance program based on what you're working with machinery-wise and set that into place. When it comes to predictive maintenance, you hit on heat maps. Now, for some industries, it's not always a heat map. Some industries, it's number of rotations on a wheel, number of materials cut by a saw. So it's being able to take an SAP or a CSSM program and really getting in and going, hey, every time we get over 10,000 rotations with this wheel, we run the risk of it breaking during production.
Yep.
So with predictive maintenance, you're able to take the wheel off at 9,000 rotations. This is an example. Put it back on a night shift when the line's not running, and save yourself the downtime the next day. Because one of the biggest hits in the industry right now is the financial cost of downtime.
Oh, yeah.
So downtime in facilities is typically measured by the minute, and then monthly by the percentage of time lost. I don't know the exact number per facility, but every facility knows how much every hour of downtime costs them. I can guarantee you that.
Oh, yeah. We actually have a spreadsheet that tracks every machine that's down, and it has a running clock on each one of those machines, so we know exactly how much time we're losing while those machines are down.
And a majority of those machines that are going down, Felipe, do you think that with a proper preventative and a proper predictive maintenance plan, you could stop it?
Here, no. That's not so much the issue with what's going on here.
Right.
What's going on here is training deficiencies in the operators. They'll have downtime because they don't know how to change out a certain piece or part or a blade that the material will rest on, and they don't know how to adjust it. So they'll just not run that machine. Now, A lot of times they'll call over maintenance for help to set up the machine. But there's kind of like a controversy with our higher ups and production higher ups saying, hey, that's your guys' training. That shouldn't fall on us. We're already repairing other machines. That's going to take time away from repairing those machines. And then that's going to be down and this other one's going to be down. But they really need to train their operators better. Yeah, that's actually what's going on here. Just lack of training for the operators.
Do you feel like in your past experience, there would have been a place for predictive and preventative maintenance to save you some reactive maintenance?
I would say the Navy. The predictive maintenance would have.
Yeah, I mean, the military is notorious for running things into the ground until they don't work anymore. So I definitely agree with you there, where they're just like, I don't know, run it till it breaks, and when it breaks, fix it again.
Yeah, our issue was getting stuff, because we were always out at sea and getting stuff by backflight or something. We'd always get it a couple of weeks later than when we really needed it. That was the only issue there.
Talk to me about why you think the relationship between production and maintenance is so tense. I mean, you talked about it a little bit, like it's tense. Like it always feels kind of tense in these environments. And is that because, is maintenance resentful of production? Is production just doesn't understand what maintenance is doing? Why do you think that's always a tense relationship? What do you think that stems from?
I think we're both looking at the end goal is at the same point. We're just taking different roads to get there. Our issue, the tenseness coming from us, is that in order to get the stuff that we need done, we kind of can't let production drive us. Hey, can you go fix this over here? Hey, can you go fix this over here? Hey, can you go fix this over here? When we should be on something else throughout the day to get that running. There's all the other little things that come up. And that also, we have a lack of personnel. They really are shorthanded here. So since there's not a lot of us going around, we have to be on the major things to finish and not leave that for the next crew. Because what ends up happening is then you end up with bolts missing, a part missing somewhere. If we don't get it all done at once, there's so many people, so many bodies moving around. Somebody picks something up, doesn't return it, or they didn't know it went to that, and so they went threw it in the trash, something like that. So if we're not there watching it and on it the whole time from start to finish, ours can go missing. And then all the little things that pop up, it's like, weld this rail over here, or make this adjustment over here, or this won't adjust. And it's out of oil, or you just need to move that to the side a little bit. It's a little Allen wrench and it's weak. It's something really small, but we're getting pulled away from the big things to go take care of those small things that the operator should be able to. And our intention is that the production supervisor will come to the tech directly instead of using the chain of command to go up, and he sees our supervisor and our supervisor figuring out what the priority is and telling us where to go. The production is coming to us directly. Like I'm on the floor working on the machine, and then I'll get a tap on the shoulder. It's like, hey, can you stop what you're doing there and go do this real quick? And I'll be like, well, let me call my boss real quick. Let me make sure he's okay with it. And they're like, no, just go do it. Just go do it. I'm like, okay, just so you can leave me alone, I'm going to go do it real quick. And then I'm going to come back to this. But then that took me 20 minutes away from this machine that I'm supposed to be fixing. And I would be so much further along throughout the day if I didn't get that 20-minute interruption every hour.
This feels to me like a bit of a communication overlap there. Is this something that's common in the industry? Not just where you are, but is this an industry? Is this pretty industry specific?
Yes, it's everywhere I've ever been. Your floor production guy or person, whatever, will come and tap you on the shoulder. Even if you're working on another machine, be like, hey, are you busy? Can you come do this real quick? And you're like, okay, go do this real quick and then come back to this. So it's always been like that.
Well, you said it right at the beginning. I mean, production and maintenance have the same goal. At the end of the day, everybody wants the lines running perfectly. Everybody wants the product produced, and everybody wants to meet the objective. What people do is they get a little bit tunnel visioned on their specific piece, so they forget that there's other layers to this. And as you talk about, there's no malice, there's no vindictiveness in any of this. When people come to you and like, man, I really need your help. Can you help me get a line up? And when you step away from that machine, it's not because it's not job abandonment. It's not that you don't understand the importance. It's, I want to be helpful.
Yeah.
So as these two entities want to be successful in maintenance and production, there's always kind of this clash because it's, I want to help, but I also need to get this other job done. I need to get my job done. So what those lead to, as you hit on, is human error or human involvement, which leads to missing parts, misalignment, missed PMs at times, maybe some fabrication or pencil whipping that happens at times. So in your opinion, do you think that most maintenance errors are caused by machinery or humans?
Humans.
And how do we fix that?
In my mind, the engineers have taken a long time to try to put a machine together to make it work the way it's supposed to work. And then you get on the floor and then you do your tweaking. After all that and the machine's running, the only thing that's going to mess it up after that's going to be your operator. My solution to that would be longer training, not so much more extensive training. They're teaching them what they should know right off the bat, but they're not retaining it because they're giving them about a week or a week and a half of training. And then you're saying, okay, you can operate it, putting you on third shift. And then you don't see them anymore. And then you hear about that they finally quit or something because they couldn't get it done and they were frustrated and they just didn't know how to do what they were supposed to be doing. But it's because they couldn't remember what they were taught. Because it goes by so quick. A week and a half of training is nothing when you're trying to run this machine that, it's supposed to be within microns of it, microns tolerance.
That's a small margin for error.
Yeah. And if they're not on zero, by the time this valve gets down to the finishers and they're not at zero for tolerance, it's scrap. It's wasted material, wasted time all the way down the line for everybody.
Which, as you alluded to earlier, is all put up on a big giant board that tells people how good you're doing.
Yep. That's the worst part about it, because no matter how much we get done, it feels like sometimes maintenance isn't keeping up. Like we're trying to keep up. You're messing them up fast. You don't get to fix them. No, I love it though. I absolutely love working with all these people and these machines.
Felipe, it's been a lot of fun kind of going through this with you and the predictive and the preventive and this reactionary. And then this relationship that's always going to exist between production and maintenance. So I want to ask you, I'm going to give you a little bit of a soapbox here, 5 minutes, however long. One thing you wish you could tell everybody, either in maintenance, in production, what's one message you wish you could give out consistently that you think holds value for everyone who could hear it?
Be patient and be teachable. Be patient with each other because you might not always understand exactly right off the bat what somebody means. So ask your questions and be patient with them to explain it. Be patient with your production because they might not know what the priority is with your boss and between your boss and you. So if they're coming in and asking you or pulling you off somewhere, just be patient with them and make sure they understand, hey, my boss said I need to be here. You need to go talk to him. And then be teachable also, because there's still things out there that I'm learning about, little tricks about filters and stuff like that I'm like, oh, I didn't know about that. Well, that's cool. If you're teachable and they show you something and you take it in and you can reproduce what you were taught, then you're that much better. But if you're always teachable and you can always reproduce what you were taught, then you're golden. I mean, like, that's what you want. You want somebody who can do exactly what you tell them to do. So just always be teachable and be patient.
I love it. I think those are two very common themes with people in the maintenance industry, but also in every walk of life. You need to be patient with people. You need to be teachable when people approach you to try to help you. So I appreciate you. I think that those are consistent life themes that everybody should strive to have. And those are two characteristics everybody should carry with them. Felipe, thank you so much for being on the show today. A huge thank you to all of you who subscribe, continue to watch. Please leave a comment, reach out to us if you have any questions. If you want to be on the show, please feel free to reach out. We appreciate everything you're doing. And again, Felipe, thanks for your time. Thanks for your insight. And thank you all.
It's been an honor. Thank you.